Thank you for joining me for another episode of YQG in Bloom. I'm your host, Tracy Martins, and today I am lucky enough to have back for a second sitting the president and vice president of the Arts Collective Theatre, Chris Rabideau, and Moya Mcalister.
Hi.
Hey.
We're happy to be back. Thanks for having us.
And again, happy Black History
Yes.
Month. I'm calling it a happy because I'm learning so much this month thanks to you guys. And I appreciate the fact that ACT has asked me to do some of these podcasts with the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, learning about the new play that they are putting out, The Price of Freedom. And we just met with Carlos Anthony, who wrote and is going to be starring in it. And thank you guys both. I really appreciate you both so much.
Well, we always say, like, with Black History Month, it's just a kickoff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So technically, Black history is Canadian history, so we should be learning about it all year. And what I love about Windsor, Essex is that we have a calendar full of events happening in the city this month. And that's just like the icing on the cake, you know? And I hope that people in Windsor, Essex can get out, go to these events, meet these organizations that are putting on these events so that they can follow them and their anything that they do for the rest of the year as well, because there's some really awesome stuff happening in the city.
There really is.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it. Now, The Price of Freedom. I know the last time we talked, you had on the docket, you wanted to create a production with a local playwright. Mm-hmm. Did you have this story in mind when you guys started this?
Not at all. About a year ago, we had met a board member of ours, Shelley Davis, had said, I have a friend who wants to talk to you about doing something with the museum. I said, oh, great. Me and Moya had a chat. We called, we talked. And she said, I'd like you to do, a little something, nothing too big, something where we could do 5, 10, 15 minutes at the most that could celebrate. Could you do something like that with us? And I looked at Moya and I was just like, I think this might be our next play. And it was very honest because we said, well, let's not say what the play is yet. Let's find a writer, and I want them to feel like they're writing something that they're passionate about. So that's what happened. We met Carlos, and he became the writer of the production. We were really excited about that. It was very important to us to have the words by a Black writer. Yeah.
What was really great and how we got to meet Carlos was through Irene Moore Davis. She's part of the Black Historical Research Society, and we wanted to make sure that, if there was somebody in the city that maybe knew about already, was writing about Black history, that they would be a perfect person to come on this project with us. But she suggested Carlos, and we were so happy that she did.
And then we met up, and we all together went on a trip to the Amherstburg Freedom Museum. And we wanted to spend the afternoon there to say, what stood out to us? What was not being told enough? We've heard great stories of history, and very relevant and important ones. But what was the story that we wanted to take forward? Where's the Windsor story that we wanted to elevate and give more prominence to? And he settled on the story of John Anderson. And we met with the first draft in August. Yep. And that's the amount of time, 6, 7, 8 months of time just to get here today. And then we went through many revisions. I'm always coming at it from a director point of view. Carlos comes from film and writing and a book author. So he sees things in smaller images. I see things in a large moving image, right? I see things like, well, it's not many scenes, but this image that keeps evolving and it gets us to the next place, on stage, live, right? We have to be live. And so guiding Carlos to get there was wonderful. Then we had the workshops in November, December, where we took the words and said, what works, what doesn't? Let's get on our feet. Let's read this through. What character is missing? What does John have to encounter? What's the event that's not there yet?
And what's really great about the workshops, it was very collaborative. So we invited members of the community, whether or not they were actors, historians, anyone that was just interested in being a part of this. And we did script reads, we did table reads. And through that, there was a lot of suggestions, power to Carlos. He took a lot of criticism at first. Everybody was like, oh, you need to do this, or you need to change this, or, we don't love this line. And he was so grateful for all the feedback. And we always started off those workshops with, Carlos, you can take whatever is said here, or you can disregard it. This is your play at the end of the day. But it was, we had 6 workshops.
6 to 8 workshops.
Yeah, 6 to 8
and our
workshops.
philosophy was a good idea is a good idea. We can have a good play, or we can have a great play. And we're heading towards a great play. And we started rehearsals in January. So it's only about 3.5 weeks, 4
in a couple
weeks
weeks,
in. And we're up on stage in 3 at the Capitol. So it's a fast-moving process.
Yep. For a 2-hour play,
This is not, this is a 2-act world premiere play at the Capitol Theater.
Yeah, because this was only supposed to be a 1-act.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's grown exponentially.
The story needed to be told, and it needed to be, this is a memory play, which means we're going back. So it's set in 1860, I should say. And it goes back to being on the plantation, it goes back to being on the run. All the stuff that we might have heard about the Underground Railroad, we see in these events that happen, that take place, to get him to the ultimate court case, in which, they want him to be extradited back to America. And if that would have happened, we probably all know what would have happened. And escaped person who was enslaved, coming back, not so good.
You don't come back.
And so we really wanted to talk about that. And we wanted to make it educational as well, right? We have students coming to see this show, and it's exciting, it's new. We have a lot of great artists in Windsor, like Leslie McCurdy, who's been touring her one-woman show all over North America for like 20 years. Fantastic stuff. And we want to continue to introduce new topics so that way our youth can see figures from our history, as seeing history alive on stage, and get to know them and see them and ask questions and talk to the writer. These are events that should be happening all the time, and we need to really illuminate them. And so we're very excited about that, and I think it's a voice that needs to be heard.
For sure. And I like how it is coming in and has evolved, as Carlos said, as a thriller. So it makes it more interesting and more exciting to watch it, and for the younger people, because you say history and they're going, okay, no, not more history, not more school. But if it's presented to them in this way where they're seeing the action and they're seeing it as a thriller, but this is reality. This horror actually happened.
I've been learning a lot. Like things like Carlos had wrote some of the characters, some of the slave catchers, as black males. And I'm thinking, well, why would that be? But they were paid too. They were told what they had to do as well. Like there's a lot of the bounty hunters and stuff. Like, there's so much history I'm learning too. We're all learning together and going, what? I had no idea. How about the fact this church where we're staying right now, where we've been rehearsing, we rehearse here at All Saints Church, as our office is located here in our studio space. And this church was just being built the year he would have come over. So he probably saw this church being built. It's amazing to think that, 175 years later, we're able to practice here, knowing that across it was called the barn, where they would come and show their papers to come over to Canada, would have been right across from us, where the city hall is around there.
Oh my goodness.
So he would have been processed, came across to freedom here, looking at this church. That is, to me, that's like,
I'm just speechless.
It's all these pieces coming together to revive a trueness about our society, and people who haven't been talked about enough is amazing. And then how that changed the law. Like all these different fragments of this show are so essential, and I hope people will come and see it.
I hope so.
Now, how big is the cast?
There's 16 cast members.
16 cast members.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, and I knew this was going to happen, is a lot of people who come out to the workshops, they get so invested in the material that they end up being in the cast. When you say, oh, how did you cast the show? We really didn't have to. It's because
there's already people
were part of it,
They
and I would
were
say, why don't you read this part? Oh, okay. Why don't you try this? Okay. Next thing you know, what? And they're in the show
They're in
on
the
stage.
show.
And most of the people have not been on stage before.
Well, Akil.
Again, here we go.
I know Akil, and I heard from Christina, your AD.
He's just been doing improv classes with you.
I know him from act improv class, and he's got a good role. And he's like, I asked him, I said, how are you doing? He's like, oh my God, I never thought I was going to do this, but he's
doing great.
I was just at the Capitol the other day, and the first question they asked me was, how many new people are on stage? Because ACT has We love that.
Yeah, we love
it.
putting
There's
new people on
sponges,
stage.
people coming new. It's just amazing. And part of what we do always in a show is add new people in it. Look, it is about developing talent in the city. And in this case, developing young Black talent is so important. Developing appreciation for the arts, continuing that is so important. And we hope we do that with the youth coming to see the show as well. The more people see themselves on stage, the better our city gets. And the theater community will be for it.
Our kids in Windsor, Essex County are sponges
Correct.
for the theater. Like when I was talking to Christina and we were talking about when Eve Clay was here and the questions that these kids were asking.
So many great questions.
Blew my mind how interested they were, not just the on stage, but the technical, the back, the marketing, the advertising. And these are things that me as a 54-year-old wasn't even thinking about. And these high schoolers were asking these questions and I'm like, oh my God, we're going to have wonderfully amazing, creative, talented kids if they are steered in the right direction. And I think you guys are doing a great job of that. Like just even downstairs, Annie was doing the practice today and they sounded amazing.
These are all kids, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's so important. Like we have a youth program, we have this program, which is the ACT Collab. And being in collaboration with the Amherstburg Freedom Museum was a great way to start this new project because we're lifting up people, we're giving voices, we're allowing them to be part of the theater experience. And just hearing people talk about that is amazing. Or it would be our community projects or our Act New Works, a new project that is going to be to help artists be paid for their work. Like these are all great, and this is all good energy happening in our theater community. And we're just trying to make the difference. Together we will. Together we will.
Now, is this, sorry to cut you off really quickly, is this your first collab?
Yeah, this is, so we just started, this is, we launched this program for 2025. So we started it last year, but it was officially launched this year. And this is something that we want to do now annually. So this is going to be, ACT Collab is going to be an annual program where we, any organizations, nonprofits, charities, if they're interested in working with us and putting on a play to highlight something that their organization does or a story that the organization needs to tell and wants to get out there in a new and unique way. That's what we're looking for this program that's going to happen every year.
That's great. So make sure organizations get in touch with them because this is like grown so much. I
From
can't
nothing.
believe it.
It starts from just an idea.
And now he's talking about
He wants it on tour. I know Carlos wants to tour
oh my
this.
goodness.
I believe he's writing a book to go along with this as well. Yeah, he's got big plans for this play because it's been his baby for so long, right? And now that he's acting in it as well, he's so invested in this project, as are all of us. So we'd like to see some legs come from it and see how far we can take it.
And that's why I think that any organization or person, anybody that wants to collab and they have a good story, no matter how small it is, it can be put on stage. What else are you guys doing next after Annie?
Well, then we move into our major musical, which I start the minute this one ends.
Along with Act New Work.
Along with Act New Work. So two things are happening at the same time. In May, we'll be auditioning for actors at the same time for either Act New Works, which is called Blood Ties, and it's a brand new work from Johnson & Johnston from Toronto. One is actually in Come From Away right now in Toronto stage. The other one is workshopping a new musical.
Yep, in Stratford.
Annika's workshopping a new musical. Well, they had written a couple years back a musical that they premiered, and they thought, and we had heard about it, and we thought, we're looking for something new to come to Windsor, and we're looking for people to be able to workshop a brand new show. This is good for Windsor, right? So they wrote a show called Blood Ties, and we were like, okay, that's it, let's do that. And then we'd worked with Brian Hindle on Rent. He was one of our choreographers on the show. And so I called him up, and I said, look, I want you to direct a brand new show. Come to Windsor for 3 weeks, just like you would on Broadway. You get 2-3 weeks, 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, and show a workshop of this new musical and premiere it in Windsor here. And so that's what's going on. This is so exciting. Like, I can't believe that's happening. That'll be, looks like June. So we start the summer off with this brand new work. And then at the same time, he's doing that and I am directing Evita. And so in May, we're going to audition people for both shows. They might be selected for both. They might be selected for one. We'll see.
We'll see how it
goes. And both will be happening at the same time, and I will be in deep rehearsals for Evita. And Evita is usually, the summer project usually is the one that is the most stressful, and it's so big. And I'm always trying to up ourselves. Look, I am never satisfied with okay. I will give the best I can for what we have. And I just, I'm never satisfied. I always want more. And people, he always wants more. The truth is, yes, because there's always something better we can do to show our community. There's always another place to go up. I'm such a believer in that. Like, if we can do it a little bit better, let's do it. And why do we have to say, oh, it's community this, or why? No. We are our best selves rising up. We are who we are, getting better and stronger together. And if it means we put on the best show we can, let's do it. And that's my thing. So I put a lot of energy into the show. But we know what's happening? We are getting people contacting us to be part of this now, meaning like, I want to help backstage, or I just want to I want to work on a work study, or whatever it might be. We want to be involved. People coming to school here to be involved in ACT. Something's happening since Rent, and it took 10 years, but something's happening. It's something in the water, something here.
It's your perfectionism. Your perfectionism is making these plays, these productions, these stories insanely good. Beyond good. Good isn't even a good enough word for it. And people are seeing that, and they're realizing that Windsor, we're on the map now. We're going like Stratford, I think.
And I was talking to Brian, and we were having a meeting over the holidays about the project, and Brian said to me, why go to New York? Why not make Windsor something, the legacy here?
Exactly. That's
what Edmonton's doing. That's what you're seeing, a lot of smaller companies evolving into these labs, these places for people to create new work. And then if it has legs, it walks to New York after, right? And then they want it. New York wants to see something new. And so I think what's happening now, it's turned. Smaller companies are investing themselves in becoming laboratories for theater and creating new works. And people are coming to see it, traveling all over to see it, and going, the right person walks in the room and says, bingo, we're taking that over here. And that's what you want to do, right?
That's true.
Give all these young artists and other artists an opportunity to create, and maybe one hits. Wouldn't that be lovely?
And that's why we have these 2 new programs this year, because it's all about new work. At CoLab, it's about creating a new play, a new original play. And the fact that we were able to find the writer locally, collaborate with the organization locally, like this is something that is born out of Windsor, out of our people. And I think that's something that needs to be done, and it's just going to put Windsor Essex on the map, especially in the arts community.
I see us going there. I told Moya, I would like to see, we just celebrate our 10 year, and I'd like to see when we get to 20, looking back over the last 10 and say, this was the year that we had partnerships more than ever. We're known out of Windsor. We're creating dynamic new work every year. People are getting paid for their work. We're working with other people in the town. Maybe we're building a new theater. I don't know. Whatever that is, I see bigger. I want more.
I see that happening before the 20th. I really do. Just in the last year alone, it's grown exponentially.
It takes vision. It takes a lot. It's not about just producing the work. It's about seeing 5 years from now.
And making sure that you have the right people that are supporting you.
Yes.
Our board is phenomenal. We wouldn't have had this collaboration with the Amherstburg Freedom Museum if it wasn't because a board member is very close with the Amherstburg Freedom Museum and their board. And so she was like, you know what? We need to be working together. And I feel like great work comes out of collaborations, and we see that in the city more than anything because a lot of collaborations are happening, and I love seeing that. I love partnerships. I love it, love it, love it. And every time I'm writing a grant, I'm like, okay, who can we partner with? Because I love working with people, and I think that's just going to make one idea, like Chris always says, there's never a bad idea. I want to hear it. A good idea is a good idea.
Good idea is a good idea.
The more people you get in the room like that, or have that kind of innovative want to do more here in Windsor, Essex, and bring more to the community, great things come out of that for sure.
Well, you guys on the board also have such a great relationship, a lot of give and take, a lot of talking and communicating, and you work well together. And I mean, they're wonderful people, like Shelley.
Well,
I love
and Tracy,
her.
I have to
Can't
tell
say
you,
enough.
our big thing is our board has all done something in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they've never been on stage, they've been on stage in something. They've been backstage. They've worked front of house, something involving in theater, because that's where it's like in the University of Windsor, they used to have this program where it was you had to be in nature of theater. You had to work behind, paint something, build something, costumes, whatever that was, to appreciate that when you're an actor on stage, there are other people doing things for you that help you get there. And so for us, it's always building that appreciation. You know, I started backstage. I was on stage as a kid. You have to understand all the elements that make production work. And when you do that, then you have an appreciation for everyone working on the project together. When I started ACT, I was the production manager, the director, I was all of it. And I learned real quick how everything worked. When Moya came on, she came on as the production manager and other things, and it just built from there, because then you understand how a show operates, and then you have an appreciation. You know what? Let me help you. I know what that's like. I help move the sets into the theater. I'm the last one who leaves, because just because I'm the director doesn't mean I get to leave when the show's over and say, oh, that's great. Maybe in New York one day, maybe in 30 years, I don't know. But it's an appreciation, and it's showing that it's a humbling that shows that everyone is in this together and no one is better than anyone else.
Yep.
A good idea is a good idea, and helps everybody lift up, right? So that's where we kind of come from.
And that's why you guys are so wonderful. And I appreciate you both so much. And I can't wait to see The Price of Freedom, which is February 28th, March 1st, and March 2nd of this year, and your 10th anniversary. And thank you again, Moya and Chris. I appreciate you both so much.
Thank you.
And again, this is Tracy Martins, YQG and Bloom. I hope you all have a wonderful day.